Christopher Friedel here. We're here at NAPE, at Texas Blockchain Council, and we are interviewing Shanon. Shannon's going to tell us a little bit. Works over at the Squires. So Shanon Squires. My goodness, I just butchered that.
You're good.
Anyway, works over at Compass, and just kind of go through like what you do on your day-to-day, how your background in the business, what brought you down to NAPE, and who you're looking to meet, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so background, I got into Bitcoin mining in early 2017. Tried to put together a stranded gas Bitcoin mining project, stranded gas well in Oregon County, Colorado. Trying to take advantage of this. There's a bunch of stranded wells or, virgin wells that were drilled in Colorado looking for oil. They only found gas. So trying to monetize that asset and just, Bitcoin's a good way to do that. So went through the whole project, learned the hard way about everything going down from ordering miners sight unseen from China, from companies nobody's ever heard of, to getting into...
Finding your way on the website and figuring out how to...
With Telegram, because the website didn't exist.
Oh, right, yeah.
Not even knowing if they're real people, the whole 9 yards. Hoping that they show up, all that fun stuff. To have the miners show up, 3+ months after they were no longer profitable. And had a great experience getting into mining. Stayed in the hosting space, dealing with putting together like a hosting directory for a period of years with a few different companies. Ended up doing some contracting work for several other larger mining entities.
What do you mean by contracting work?
Just contracted for specific projects, whether it was due diligence on a power opportunity or due diligence on a hosting opportunity, or, how do you take a Chinese company and make it into a U.S. subsidiary and, bring them to market, that type of thing.
Oh, cool. That's very specific.
Very specific, yeah. So I've done a lot within the mining space. And then the entire time trying to raise money for my own Bitcoin mining farm, like that was my goal, is like I want to build my own 10 megawatt Bitcoin mining farm, whether it was grid or gas or whatever the best opportunity was that I could put together.
Yeah.
And failed at raising money the entire time. When Compass showed up, I knew him, paid attention to him very early on, had some conversations with Thomas early on, and, basically said, hey, if I can't raise money to build my own farm, then I'll come work for you in a year. Now I'm working for them, and I'm happy to. Like, they're a good company. They've been through the ringer, and it's exciting where they're going.
They're still here right now.
They're still here. They've been through the ringer. They're still here. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the natural gas. On the natural gas side, where do you think there's there's stranded, there's an opportunity there? Where do you think that there's a gap in information between Bitcoin and the oil and gas? Why is that arbitrage still there?
Yeah. So I think that it's new and it's scary. Like, in order to talk to someone about Bitcoin mining, you have to explain to them what Bitcoin is, and you have to explain to them that mining is a horrible word for, processing information. And then, we do it in a decentralized way. So it's a big picture you got to get through first.
Data center, right?
It's just a data center. We're just running computers. I equate it most closely to like being the Visa of Bitcoin, right? Mm-hmm. So we're not actually processing transactions. We're just verifying the ledger. We're putting transactions into a block and sending that information to everybody. And they run their nodes and they decide if they're going to accept our information as valid or not based on the software they're running, right?
Yeah.
So getting a oil and gas company, whether that's dealing with flare gas or stranded wells or pipeline gas, midstream, whatever, to the point of understanding that this is just a data center that we can put anywhere, is a decent chunk, right? And once you get that bitten off, then you can start going down the rabbit hole. On the other side of it, you got the Bitcoin miners who, super entrepreneurial, running around trying to put this stuff together, and that have no idea how gas and oil industry works. They don't understand all the incentives in, drilling wells, looking for oil and gas being a waste product and how that's consumed in the market. So there's still a disconnect between the two. There's a few companies that are running around here, like, Giga, Crusoe, Upstream Data, that have bridged that gap and are putting that piece together. And so the more that happens, the more education that gets out there, the less scary it becomes, the less risk it becomes to run a Bitcoin mining farm off your asset, whether it's stranded or not, the more we'll see. I think in the end, midstream gas companies are going to be the ones that, start using more Bitcoin mining. It's really simple to be able to go like, oh, my gas is losing value. NYMEX is trading, at $2 an MCF, or, we're getting down to $1 MCF. Normally they just shut in, they stop producing, and, they have layoffs and companies, mergers and acquisitions. Well, instead, now I can just, put a gen set in a container and some miners sit there, And instead of, using the power to run my pumps, I'm going to use the power to mine Bitcoin. And so when gas prices are low, and it makes more sense to mine, switch over to mining. When natural gas prices are high, sell it into the market and just go back and forth.
Just flip the switch back and forth on the process. Do you see, the larger companies, there's less of an incentive for them to switch because it's doesn't move the needle as much, and then some of the smaller companies, they're going to adopt that a little bit more quickly because there's an incentive there for them to do that? Or do you think that there's another path that happens?
I think it depends on how their asset value is structured. Like if you have large ongoing gas contracts for years at a price that gets you where you need to be, and you just want to maintain that, that's one thing. But if you're trying to sell into a spot market, so it just depends on the value of that contract and the value of that gas at the time, and how they're selling the gas, or if they can sell the gas. Is there even a market to sell to? So gas is an interesting thing, mostly because it's a waste product of getting oil. And we're not going to stop getting oil. Everything we have in front of us right here is covered in oil in some form, whether it's the paint or the foam or the plastic.
You're shocking me.
Yeah. Some of the fabrics in your clothes, this chair is made out of, it's all made out of oil, right? There's 8,000 different things made out of barrel oil. So we're not stopping, getting oil.
Yeah.
Gas is with the oil. We have to do something with it. So if there's enough gas and we can clean it, put it in a pipeline, generate electricity with it, we do a lot of that, right? That actually allowed us to cut CO2 emissions significantly because we're able to go away from burning coal and start burning gas. It's way cleaner burning. So that was good, but there's still more oil and more gas than what we can currently use in those systems from time to time. There's a surplus. And so when the surplus of gas is up, the price goes down. We need ways to use it. Or they're out exploring for it, oil, and they got to get rid of the gas. So they started flaring, right? They burn the gas, just light it on fire and burn it. Well, that's not the best thing. It's better than just venting the gas. Yeah. Venting pure methane in an environment is very bad. Burning it is less bad. But ultimately, you got to do something with the gas. So let's consume it on site, right? Let's just take that gas that's in the way, and instead of having to build a giant pipeline to get access to this oil asset to get the gas out, we could just go consume it on site and, make it a better situation for everybody. So.
Yeah, I don't recall the source, but when you burn the gas, it's you use 90-something% of the methane that's coming out, and when you're using it on site, there's maybe 1% that doesn't get used.
I have no idea.
It's something. Yeah, you're using a large amount of it on site versus just let it burn out there.
Generator combustion's probably more efficient than a flare as far as that goes. There's still CO2 production, right? You're still burning it one way or another. You're still combusting it. Carbon capture technology has come a long ways. When I first started paying attention to this, it was like a science project and way too expensive. Now it's becoming a reality. You could actually capture 98+% of the carbon coming out of it, and either use that for reinjection, make it food grade, sell it to companies that need carbonate beverages. And there's a lot of other stuff that comes out of that well besides, methane and oil, right? You get all the other, alkanes and, all the other NGLs that are coming out of that you can use. And so figure out how to monetize that entire, spectrum of stuff, and as much of it on site as can, is always going to be a win, right? So there's less waste overall. There's ways to mitigate a lot of it. And so it's just it's a good use of the stranded resource.
Now, switching topics a little bit, you mentioned that earlier, we were talking a little bit before camera, and you're talking about miners, the difference between, who's going to kind of take over, miners or oil and gas. I'm going to pick at that a little bit.
Yeah.
What's your thinking behind that?
So it's interesting because the reality is Bitcoin mining is a really small, minuscule speck in the world of energy. Energy is very large. I would equate Bitcoin mining to essentially the gas that's evaporating at the pump. You get a 7% evaporation of just gas going into your tanks and stuff. So
you just offended a whole bunch of people right now in the Bitcoin space. Michael Saylor is not happy.
Yeah, sorry. But Bitcoin mining is like the entire energy industry loses more value in evaporated gas than Bitcoin even comes close to, right? So the energy industry is very, very large. Bitcoin mining is very small relatively. They are very synergistic. They work really well together because the decentralized network allows us to place these data centers at the source. We don't have to have loss in transmission lines. We don't have to have all this other energy loss and moving it around. and we can monetize renewable resources that are producing when there's no consumer. So whether that's a wind farm that's producing or a solar farm that's producing and there's no one consuming the power on the other side, okay, so we turn down stuff, but eventually you have to curtail that if the grid can't handle it and can't take that load. So, we're a buyer of waste energy, right? We want the trash no one else wants as far as that goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're small in the energy space. I think eventually oil and gas companies and energy companies are just going to, eat the Bitcoin miners, or there'll be some sort of joining of the forces. It's not going to be Bitcoin miners, buying,
They're not
building
gonna take
energy.
over, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to take over the entire.
You
not
know,
going to take over ExxonMobil.
No, but maybe some large energy producer, you got some big ones there in Texas, Encore, Constellation. They're like, hey, we're just gonna, build a giant load on our service, and we're gonna mine Bitcoin when there's excess power to support our wind production, so we can build more wind.
And we'll build we'll build solar, and we'll tap into the IRA credits for that.
Exactly.
And then we'll use it.
Yeah. It just completes the energy monopoly once they can consume their own energy and, in a very valuable way.
Right. Gotcha. Now, do you see, with your role in the space, what's your, you've had several roles, kind of the entire vertical integration, you've operated on all of them. What aspect do you like the best? Where are you focused right now?
Yeah, so within the Bitcoin mining space, I've probably done every aspect of it short of soldering chips on boards, which was in the future, but now I don't have to. There's people that are better at it. So currently with Compass, I deal with procurement. So I would say procurement of all things, whether that's hardware acquisition, miners, infrastructure, things like that, or new sites. And currently, Compass grew very quickly. And so now we're in the phase of Compass where we want to keep growing, but we want to make sure that we're doing it smart and appropriately and, moving in the correct path. So do we want to look for, partners to deal with rack-ready space? Do we want to do greenfield projects? And so my role is to go find opportunities for cost-effective mining, bring the project together, and then, work as a team to kind of vet it out if it's something we want to do.
So it's really everything. I mean, that's your like whatever is needed to be able to bring 50 megawatts online. That's what you're
yeah. So
you're
source the power and land, and source the infrastructure. Obviously, I'm not the sole person. There's we have a team.
And you're not working 24 hours around the clock.
And well, my wife would disagree with that. Yeah, but basically it's go put the mining farm together, find the cost-effective power, find a way to put the product together, and then Compass operates as a marketplace, right? So they got into the industry essentially aggregating retail and getting them access to something they wouldn't have on their own. So, if you have a very large load, 10 megawatts plus, you have access to power that's less expensive, right? You have economies of scale and operations and all that fun stuff you can't do in your garage by yourself. And so that's what Compass kind of started out with, is aggregating retail. And, it's a tough thing to do. They, have grown into, more institutional business as well. And so Compass has found a balance between that, the three kind of buckets of retail, institutional, and self-mining, and kind of, figuring out how to play it together appropriately. Mm-hmm. And in that process, they built a marketplace, and their marketplace is essentially like the Amazon of Bitcoin mining. Like, I think it's a really solid product to be able to, buy and sell miners, be able to buy and sell your hosting contracts and agreements. And then, Compass can deal with the customer service and operations on that side, where there's, people that are better at infrastructure and power management, let them deal with it on the other side. So, create that, connection point for everybody as well. It's an important thing to have. I mean, everybody uses Amazon, whether they like it or not, because they created a really efficient way to do something. And that's kind of the way I see Compass going. We do operate our own repair centers, like they put service centers in Colorado, warehousing to help with logistics, and bring a lot more control in-house. And then the goal moving forward for Compass is just have more operational control. We have a phenomenal team of techs that have been doing this for a long time. They're very experienced, and being able to, have more control over operating our sites and working with fewer and fewer operational partners and being able to get more of it in-house is, I think, the goal.
So expanding more of your core competencies and be able to be, just your core competencies extend the entire vertical integration. Where are you, from an energy standpoint, where do you see, kind of go back to the beginning, where do you see those opportunities existing, being more available around the country?
Yeah.
Are there areas that you're targeting? Are there
Well, we're in Texas. Compass already has a large presence in Texas, and a lot of that's fairly public. We have 4 entities in Texas for mining. I think Compass is in 25 or 27, states or between the U.S. and Canada. And so we're creeping up to the 200 megawatt mark, which is a big benchmark.
Yeah.
So if everything continues to move forward like it's supposed to, which is a big thing in the mining industry, Bitcoin mining is an endless, it's supposed to go like this, and something causes other problems.
You look at it, you're like, you think you're at the 1 yard line, everything blows up, and you're like, wait, what?
And I think that's just new stuff. Bitcoin in general is a very boom bust, cyclic market that causes a lot of problems. Energy market's the same way.
Yeah.
And so a lot of things have to line up. And when you're dealing with large amounts of power, there's a lot that goes into it. It's not like you just, call Excel Energy and, you get power at your house.
Just get it.
It's different. And so
just a little
different. And then on the gas and oil side, I'm dealing with stranded gas, it's completely different again. So there's a lot of pitfalls, and it's just about managing those and managing expectations and be able to move forward. So if everything goes as planned, get over 200 megawatts, it's a pretty big benchmark. But Compass grew to that in 2 years.
Yeah.
Which is really fast. So, but no, it's exciting. There's a lot to do. There's an endless amount of work to do. Man, it's exciting.
So, for the past few years, you've been in the space since 2017. So you've seen, got 18, 19, the challenges there, the challenges that right now that have run through the industry. What key takeaways have you taken from that you've learned personally, and then what you see from, the companies should take away?
I would say patience and perseverance. You can't time it no matter how hard you try, whether you're trying to time profitability in Bitcoin or hash rate going up or acquisition of miners that go up when the Bitcoin price goes up, or energy prices or unknown things like, Russia, Ukraine, and then jacking up all the natural gas prices drives up power. There's a lot going on. And so patience and perseverance is the biggest thing. The Bitcoin price is going to go up. It's going to go down. I don't know when it's going up. I don't know when it's going down. So optimize for the worst. So plan for bad bear markets and plan for them to extend forever. And if you're able to succeed and be successful in that type of environment, then the bull run's great. Historically, the companies that were able to make it through the bear market, they emerge on the other side stronger and better and, ready to rock and roll.
You take care of the downside, the upside will take care of itself. And the guys that have been around the space, they've done that. You got guys that have been here since 2011, 2012. They've been building, and the signal to noise ratio is much better when the market is tanked, and it kind of takes everybody out.
I get to answer a lot less questions about completely irrelevant random coins that no one's ever heard of before for the right reasons. And just remove the mess for a little while.
How many questions do you get on cryptography?
Oh, very few. Usually it's the only actual cryptography question is usually quantum computers. That's usually the only thing that ever comes up is what happens when quantum computers show up? And the one is okay, great. When they show up, hopefully I'm going to be able to mine with the thing.
Yep.
And then I'll be running it. But ultimately, it can break SHA-256. You can just guess everybody's private keys. Cool. Right. They also just guessed the, every password to every government entity in the entire world, and have access to any computer they want if they did that. So there's a lot worse problems.
Right.
Than they got my private key with their quantum. They got Satoshi's private key with their quantum computer.
They got my login for my rewards from GameStop.
Yeah, but basically you would go from, we just have to pivot, right? And so Bitcoin can change.
Yeah.
It's hard to change and it's slow to change. But if there's a real threat to that piece of it, okay, we have to pivot. The cryptography. We use elliptic curve cryptography now. SHA-256 is not a new thing. It's been around forever. And so, we pivot to lattice cryptography, which mathematically looks like it's, quantum resistant, right? That would be devastating to the mining industry, because hard forks like that will have that would be a big deal. But if there was this magic computer that could just guess everybody's, private keys, well, that's the time when you might have to take drastic actions. But I would say theoretically, it's an irrelevant conversation most of the time, but that is the only cryptography question adjacent thing. I mean, I've gotten into some crazy conversations, and I'm not a cryptographer. I just have to learn from the people who really do it. But most people have no idea what that is.
That's hilarious. Thing is, it's the foundation of the industry. But that's how it goes. It is really cool to see builders that are out here. They're here. The guys that are here at the conference when things are rougher. It's nice to see those people that are going to be around in the space past the latest boom of whatever coin going 1,000x. So it's great to have you out here, and thanks for letting us interview you. Is there anything else that you want to share that people should come to you, that you want to get out there as far as the message for Compass? Who should be reaching out to you right now?
Yeah, I mean, if you're interested in getting into Bitcoin mining, reach out. So whether that's a small scale or big scale, one miner, 300 megawatts of miners, we have the ability to tackle those projects and make it happen. We're in a lot of places, and we're growth. We want to work with people. We want to make that happen. So if it's Bitcoin mining related, reach out. If you're a miner and you need PDUs, reach out. We've solved all the problems.
You've had the problems yourselves. You've had to solve them.
Yeah, you need switchgear, you need PDUs, you need cables, you need someone to do hashboard repair. We've sorted it all out. We've got answers and solutions, and we want to help people be successful in this and not run into all the pitfalls that we've all experienced at this point in time.
So they can stay in the business. They can.
We want you to keep your miners running. That's the goal.
Yeah.
Let's help you do that.
And how do people get access to you?
I mean,
how they kind of reach out to you?
You can find me on Twitter at Shanon Squires. I'm on Telegram with
That's
Bitcoin
one
mining.
N, not two.
Yeah, SHANON. And I'm on Telegram at Squires. So I'm in all the mining related Telegram chats all the time.
Okay.
And your spam can't be any worse than the regular Telegram spam.
It is bad, isn't it?
Yeah. So those are my primary places. But I mean, you just go to compassmining.io to find the company, to learn about it, to dig in. You can reach out through the websites. But in the Bitcoin mining space, I'm not difficult to find. Yeah.
But on the spaces, you've done
Twitter Spaces,
you've done it
Clubhouse
once
back
or twice.
in the day. Yeah. So hopefully I'm trying to get some guys back to start doing a regular Friday 2:00 Bitcoin mining. Well, 2:00 Mountain Standard Time. Bitcoin mining space. We used to have a group of core miners that have been doing that for a while on Clubhouse and Twitter and back and forth a little bit. And it's just a good time to dig in and talk about mining and answer real questions and dig deep and give away actual alpha. Learn all.
Nobody wants to give away the actual alpha. It's right. They're like, I'm going to hold that for myself. But it's
we get a little out of hand, with our, we used to have 1,000 plus 3,000 people during a bull run in there wanting to learn about Bitcoin mining. And, we get everybody on stage, we get brains and, I don't know, but everybody, upstream data, and, they come chat and we just talk, and it's an actual conversation.
Yeah.
And it's fun. And then during bear markets, we get 12 people.
So this is kind of a little out there, but what do you think is needed in the Bitcoin space, or would the Bitcoin space would benefit from a new take? I mean, we have so many old names that have been in the space for a little bit. If you could add anything to the space, if you could wish list, hey, if we could get this added to the space, what would you like to see? What kind of information out there would be good to start making making the rounds other than the traditional?
I mean, ultimately Bitcoin's simple, so it's the same message. Every cycle that I've dealt with and been through, it's been the same questions. It's always the same questions, and they just haven't been answered enough yet. But I think having conversations with large midstream companies, having conversations with decision makers in large energy companies, in person, and just go through Bitcoin mining, how it works together. Even on the government side, there's a lot of government outreach, but I don't think there's a clear, there's not a clear message. There's not a clear conversation.
Yeah.
There's too much unknown. There's too much bad information out there, just that is flat out lies. And it's just trying to clean up the bad mess and get more truth and real conversation.
It does seem that, and a lot of it's politicized. It goes back to the interests, people's interests. They're going to do what they want to do, what's going to be beneficial for them. So you've got politics that, they're pushing an agenda that works for their base. And, I think that happens kind of across the...
I would say Bitcoin, like itself, bridges both sides of the political spectrum really well.
It does. Yeah.
Like, it's literally the only currency that you can use and no one can stop you. It doesn't matter who you are, what you've done, like your, race, creed, gender, ethnicity, whatever. Bitcoin's for you. No one can stop you from using it. And so I think that's important, is that you have this thing that is, that. And then, like, the bad light on Bitcoin usually comes like, oh, there's a bunch of illicit transactions. It's used for drugs, whatever. Well, we can actually see it. It's an open public ledger, right? And that's the reason we were able to, it was because they were using Bitcoin that we could track and shut down Silk Road and deal with other illicit activities. And we can see that, actually it's less than 1% of transactions on Bitcoin are illicit. Whereas with like the US dollar, it's much higher. And so, there's just a lot of bad information. Oh, they're just, boiling the oceans, burning so much energy. We're like, 0.15% of global energy, and it's all waste product, because if the energy was valuable, we wouldn't be able to afford it.
Right. That's, you can't afford it if it's going, I think, retail is, if retail's willing to pay $100 a megawatt and Bitcoin miner's not profitable over $35 or $40 a megawatt,
we want a reason that no one else wants.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where we're at.
Well, awesome. Well, I appreciate the time.
I only have one more thing. So I'm running around this energy conference, right?
Yep.
And there's this little tiny Bitcoin mining pavilion. It's very small. There are a handful of little Bitcoin miners here, which, like I said, it looks like the energy industry. It's this little small drop in energy, but I think it would be kind of crazy if we got all the pubcos, get the BMC guys, get everybody out here to put up a booth and eat up a third of the space that's here at NAPE next year.
Yeah.
I think that would be pretty impressive.
I think it would get more attention. Drew would love that. NAPE would love that. We were talking about this earlier, right? Is like there is a disconnect between the Bitcoin miners who want cheap energy and oil and gas that has a ton of energy. They're, to use your analogy, they're happy to let it evaporate because it's just not that large on their P&L. But there are smaller operators and midstream companies where that could, you could work out something. And I think that as those conversations happen over time, and we do realize, they realize that they can get a reliable buyer for their energy, people are going to be incentivized to do it. So Ryan and I have talked about it. I think Drew would love to see this like a third to half the Bitcoin space. And at the end of the day, everybody's making more money. The miners are not paying $70 a megawatt. They're able to tap in with the midstream that's at, $30 a megawatt. So, that's it'd be great
just
to
put
see.
like Bitcoin 2024 on the second half, other half of this building.
Yeah, that's
So
I like it. Awesome.
But
Great. Thanks for coming out.
Awesome. No, I appreciate it.
All right.
Hey everybody, Ryan Harper. I'm sitting at the NAPE Summit 2023 here in Houston, Texas at the TBC Pubject Power podcast booth. And I just wanted to give a couple of updates about the summit and what we have planned. We just went live with our ticketing, and I just sent an email out to, 5,000 plus people to get early bird ticketing. But that's not why I wanted to do a video. One of the things I wanted to convey is what we have planned, what we have aspirations to be, and how we see the summit being moving forward. The last 2 years have been amazing events, and it's been centralized around Texas, centralized around policy, and great efforts in Austin, Texas. Moving forward, we want to have a much bigger footprint. We're going to be in Fort Worth in November 15th and 16th. We're going to be at the convention center. We're going to have a trade show floor. We're going to have speakers that you didn't think that we could get. We have aspirations to get some high quality, high profile people, both in policy, both in political world, and in the Bitcoin blockchain digital asset space. We're going to have workshops, we're going to have startups, we're going to have universities, we're going to have nonprofits. We're going to have opportunities for startups to pitch their products. We're going to have opportunities for nonprofits to kind of showcase what they're doing, their social initiative. Our goal is to include everything that enterprise, blockchain, Bitcoin, digital asset space would want in an event. Bitcoin Miami is amazing. Consensus is amazing. Both of those events have 20,000 plus people, but both of those events are probably more of your retail space. Our goal is to make the summit the premier policy, Bitcoin, blockchain, digital asset space for everyone across the country. If you're an enterprise, if you're professional, if you want to do deals, if you want to make real change, the summit is where you need to be. This video was supposed to be 30 seconds. You're welcome. Anyway, we look forward to giving you more updates, and we'll see you at the summit.